Okay, I apologise for looking a little bit of a twat. I've just been out on my bike, but I can't wait any longer because I'm after the longer. Josh Feuerstein has offered $100,000 to any atheist, get this, who can either prove that God doesn't exist or just provide some evidence that God doesn't exist. Here is Josh in his own words.
What's up, Josh Feuerstein here. So I'm here to issue the $100,000 atheist challenge to anybody that could provide me proof or evidence that God does not exist. I think it's rather ridiculous that there's been people for a long time that have said that God does not exist, and yet they're unarmed because they have zero evidence and zero proof. How would that ever hold up in a court of law?
See, that's very generous of Josh there. He's being very generous with his money. He doesn't even demand proof. He doesn't demand an overwhelming amount of evidence. He just wants in some sphere related to the debate a bit of evidence, a bit of something from an atheist that sides with the atheistic perspective and not the theistic perspective, and then he's going to hand over $100,000. And I believe some people dispute your honesty, Josh, but I don't, and I know why. That's because you're a religious man. So you're an honest man, and you're making a video in God's name, and I know that you wouldn't be dishonest in God's name. You wouldn't be a cheat in God's name, would you, Josh? You wouldn't be a liar in God's name, would you, Josh? You wouldn't be scum in God's name, would you, Josh? Because if you did, you burn in hell. And I know you don't want to burn in hell, Josh, do you? So I know you won't be doing that. So I'm going to take you at your word. So this is the thing, Josh. One of the characteristics of the God that you subscribe to, that you believe in, that you worship, is that he is omnibenevolent. And every theologian that I've ever spoken to, that I've ever heard say anything, accepts that for God's omnibenevolence to work, there has to be more than just this earthly existence. Because after all, babies are born in horrible and terrible agony, sometimes leading very short, miserable existences. How do you tie that in with omnibenevolence? Well, it's very simple. Maybe as a baby's born with no skin, in absolute agony. But as soon as the baby dies, right, Josh, whisked straight up to heaven, to a marvellous afterlife for all of eternity. So reparations can be made by that afterlife. But what about if there was no afterlife, Josh? What about if there was no heaven? What about if those reparations couldn't be made? Then that would be real evidence, would it not, that God is not omnibenevolent, because bad things would happen to good people that never get resolved. Okay, so that if I can show that you don't have an immaterial, immortal component that can survive your death, then there can be no afterlife, there can be no heaven, there can be no omnibenevolence. And I've given you at least one piece of evidence, maybe not proof, but one piece of evidence to say that your God does not exist, and you owe me $100,000 fucking dollars. Okay, so this is the thing. I'm going to point you to a video now that I made about 4 or 5 years ago. It's a video I'm quite proud about because it collates every argument that I'd heard of at the time, and a couple that I hadn't even heard of that I just came up with, as to why we don't have an immaterial, immortal soul that could survive our death. There's a whole slew of different kinds of arguments there, Josh. Just one of them would be enough to claim the $100,000. I'm making you a fucking bucket load of them. So have a look at that video. It's one that I'm very proud of, actually. So I expect to hear back from you after this, Josh, but I'm a fair man. I'm a reasonable man. Most atheists are, So the thing is, maybe you misspoke, maybe you got it wrong, maybe you didn't want just evidence, maybe no, really, looking back on it, it is proof that you want. So I'm going to be reasonable with you, Josh. If you want to retract your previous video and say, no, it's got to be proof, not evidence, I'm prepared to settle for just $10,000. Okay, so I'm looking forward to hearing back from you, Josh. Please don't chicken out on me, because God will know if you do, Josh, won't he? Thank you for watching, Josh. Thank you for watching, everybody else. I'm off to think about what I'm going to spend my money on now. Bye for now.